The Four Princes and the Red Bud Tree. Once upon a time, in a prosperous kingdom, there was a magnificent tree, known as the Red Bud Tree. The king had 4 sons, and none of them had ever seen this tree. Each prince was eager to be the first to witness its beauty. The king, seeing an opportunity to teach his sons a valuable lesson, decided to send each one to see the Red Bud Tree at a different time of the year. One day, the eldest prince, filled with excitement, asked the driver of the king's chariot to take him deep into the woods to see the famous tree. It was still very early in the spring, and when he arrived, the Red Bud Tree looked disappointing. It had no leaves nor buds, only black bare branches like those of a dead tree. The prince was puzzled, wondering why it was called the Red Bud Tree, but he asked no questions and returned home. A few weeks later, the second son, driven by curiosity, also went with the king's charioteer to see the Red Bud Tree. This time, the tree had changed. It was now covered with hundreds of vibrant red buds. The prince was amazed by the sight and thought this must be why it was called the Red Bud Tree. When summer arrived, the third prince took his turn. When he reached the tree, the red buds were gone, and the tree was all covered in lush green leaves. He couldn't see any red buds, and wondered why it was given such a name. But he, too, asked no questions. Finally, as autumn approached, the youngest prince begged to be taken to see the Red Bud Tree. By now, the tree looked entirely different once again. It was no longer covered with leaves or red buds, but with small brown bean pods dangling from its branches. The youngest prince returned, excited, eager to share what he had seen. When the 4 princes met in the garden, they began to argue about the Red Bud Tree. "I have seen the Red Bud Tree," said the eldest, "and it looked like a dead tree, black and bare. I don't know why anyone would call it beautiful." The second prince was shocked. "Dead? That's impossible! When I saw it, the tree was covered with hundreds of beautiful red buds, and that's surely why it's called the Red Bud Tree." The third prince interrupted, saying, "No, you're both wrong. When I saw it, it was full of green leaves, with no red buds at all." The youngest laughed at his brothers. "None of you are right. I just saw the tree, and it's not bare, nor is it covered in buds or leaves. It's full of bean pods now." The brothers were confused, each sure they had seen the tree correctly. They couldn't understand why their descriptions were so different. The wise king overheard their debate and gathered them together. He smiled and said, "My sons, you have all seen the same tree, but each of you saw it at a different time of the year. The Red Bud Tree, like life itself, changes with the seasons. What you saw was only one part of its full story. To understand the whole truth, you must be patient and consider every season." Our thinking is shaped by timing and experience. Just as the Red Bud Tree changes with the seasons, so do people and situations. Don't rush to conclusions based on a single moment. In life, remember that every person and situation goes through seasons of change. Before you judge or decide, take the time to see the whole picture. Be patient, be thoughtful, and you'll discover deeper truths.